Ancient Rome grew from a small town on central Italy's Tiber River into an empire that at its peak encompassed most of continental Europe, Britain, much of Western Asia, Northern Africa, and the Mediterranean islands. Among the many legacies of Roman dominance are the widespread use of the Romance languages, Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Romanian, derived from Latin, the modern Western alphabet and calendar, and the emergence of Christianity as a major world religion. After 450 years as a republic, Rome became an empire in the wake of Julius Caesar's rise and fall in the 1st century BC. The long and triumphant reign of its first emperor, Augustus, began a golden age of peace and prosperity. By contrast, the Roman Empire's decline and fall by the 5th century AD was one of the most dramatic implosions in the history of human civilization. Before starting, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more future updates. So, let's start. Origins of Rome. As legend has it, Rome was founded in 753 BC by Romulus and Remus, twin sons of Mars, the god of war. Left to drown in a basket on the Tiber by a king of nearby Alba Longa and rescued by a she-wolf, the twins lived to defeat that king and found their own city on the river's banks in 753 BC. After killing his brother, Romulus became the first king of Rome, which is named for him. A line of Sabine, Latin, and Etruscan, earlier Italian civilizations, kings followed in a non-hereditary succession. There are 7 legendary kings of Rome: Romulus, Numa, Pompilius, Tullus Hostilius, Ancus Marius, Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, Tarquin the Elder, Servius Tullius, and Tarquinius Superbus, or Tarquin the Proud 534 to 510 BC. While they were referred to as Rex, or king in Latin, all the kings after Romulus were elected by the Senate. Rome's era as a monarchy ended in 509 BC, with the overthrow of its 7th king, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, whom ancient historians portrayed as cruel and tyrannical compared to his benevolent predecessors. A popular uprising was said to have arisen over the rape of a virtuous noblewoman, Lucretia, by the king's son. Whatever the cause, Rome turned from a monarchy into a republic, a world derived from res publica, or property of the people. Rome was built on 7 hills, known as the 7 Hills of Rome: Esquiline Hill, Palatine Hill, Aventine Hill, Capitoline Hill, Quirinal Hill, Fiminal Hantilian Hill. The early republic. The power of the monarch passed to 2 annually elected magistrates called consuls. They also served as commanders-in-chief of the army. The magistrates, though elected by the people, were drawn largely from the Senate, which was dominated by the patricians or the descendants of the original senators from the time of Romulus. Politics in the early republic was marked by the long struggle between patricians and plebeians, the common people, who eventually attained some political power through years of concessions from patricians, including their own political bodies, the tribunes, which could initiate or veto legislation. In 450 BC, the first Roman law code was inscribed on 12 bronze tablets, known as the 12 Tables, and publicly displayed in the Roman Forum. These laws included issues of legal procedure, civil rights, and property rights, and provided the basis for all future Roman civil law. By around 300 BC, real political power in Rome was centered in the Senate, which at the time included only members of patrician and wealthy plebeian families. Military expansion. During the early republic, the Roman state grew exponentially in both size and power. Though the Gauls sacked and burned Rome in 390 BC, the Romans rebounded under the leadership of the military hero Camillus, eventually gaining control of the entire Italian peninsula by 264 BC. Rome then fought a series of wars known as the Punic Wars with Carthage, a powerful city-state in northern Africa. The first 2 Punic Wars ended with Rome in full control of Sicily, the western Mediterranean, and much of Spain. In the Third Punic War, 149 to 146 BC, the Romans captured and destroyed the city of Carthage and sold its surviving inhabitants into slavery, making a section of northern Africa a Roman province. At the same time, Rome also spread its influence east, defeating King Philip V of Macedonia in the Macedonian Wars and turning his kingdom into another Roman province. Rome's military conquests led directly to its cultural growth as a society, as the Romans benefited greatly from contact with such advanced cultures as the Greeks. The first Roman literature appeared around 240 BC with translations of Greek classics into Latin. Romans would eventually adopt much of Greek art, philosophy, and religion. Internal struggles in the late Republic. Rome's complex political institutions began to crumble under the weight of the growing empire, ushering in an era of internal turmoil and violence. The gap between rich and poor widened as wealthy landowners drove small farmers from public land, while access to government was increasingly limited to the more privileged classes. Attempts to address these social problems, such as the reform movements of Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus in 133 BC and 123 to 22 BC, respectively, ended in the reformers' deaths at the hands of their opponents. Gaius Marius, a commoner whose military prowess elevated him to the position of consul for the first of 6 terms in 107 BC, was the first of a series of warlords who would dominate Rome during the late Republic. By 91 BC, Marius was struggling against attacks by his opponents, including his fellow general Sulla, who emerged as military dictator around 82 BC after Sulla retired. One of his former supporters, Pompey, briefly served as consul before waging successful military campaigns against pirates in the Mediterranean and the forces of Mithridates in Asia. During this same period, Marcus Tullius Cicero, elected consul in 63 BC, famously defeated the conspiracy of the patrician Catiline and won a reputation as one of Rome's greatest orators. Julius Caesar's rise. When the victorious Pompey returned to Rome, he formed an uneasy alliance known as the First Triumvirate with the wealthy Marcus Licinius Crassus, who suppressed a slave rebellion led by Spartacus in 71 BC and another rising star in Roman politics, Gaius Julius Caesar. After earning military glory in Spain, Caesar returned to Rome to vie for the consulship in 59 BC from his alliance with Pompey and Crassus. Caesar received the governorship of 3 wealthy provinces in Gaul, beginning in 58 BC. He then set about conquering the rest of the region for Rome. After Pompey's wife Julia, Caesar's daughter, died in 54 BC, and Crassus was killed in battle against Parthia, present-day Iran. The following year, the triumvirate was broken. With old-style Roman politics in disorder, Pompey stepped in as sole consul in 53 BC. Caesar's military glory in Gaul and his increasing wealth had eclipsed Pompey's, and the latter teamed with his Senate allies to steadily undermine Caesar. In 49 BC, Caesar and one of his legions crossed the Rubicon, a river on the border between Italy from Cisalpine Gaul. Caesar's invasion of Italy ignited a civil war from which he emerged as dictator of Rome for life in 45 BC. From Caesar to Augustus. Less than a year later, Julius Caesar was murdered on the Ides of March 1544 BC by a group of his enemies, led by the Republican nobles Marcus Junius, Brutus, and Gaius Cassius. Consul Mark Antony and Caesar's great-nephew and adopted heir, Octavian, joined forces to crush Brutus and Cassius and divided power in Rome with ex-consul Lepidus in what was known as the Second Triumvirate. With Octavian leading the western provinces, Antony the east, and Lepidus Africa, tensions developed by 36 BC, and the triumvirate soon dissolved. In 31 BC, Octavian triumphed over the forces of Antony and Queen Cleopatra of Egypt, also rumored to be the one-time lover of Julius Caesar in the Battle of Actium. In the wake of this devastating defeat, Antony and Cleopatra committed suicide. By 29 BC, Octavian was the sole leader of Rome in all its provinces. To avoid meeting Caesar's fate, he made sure to make his position as absolute ruler acceptable to the public by apparently restoring the political institutions of the Roman Republic, while in reality retaining all real power for himself. In 27 BC, Octavian assumed the title of Augustus, becoming the first emperor of Rome. Age of the Roman Emperors. Augustus's rule restored morale in Rome after a century of discord and corruption, and ushered in the famous Pax Romana, 2 full centuries of peace and prosperity. He instituted various social reforms, won numerous military victories, and allowed Roman literature, art, architecture, and religion to flourish. Augustus ruled for 56 years, supported by his great army and by a growing cult of devotion to the emperor. When he died, the Senate elevated Augustus to the status of a god. beginning a long-running tradition of deification for popular emperors. Augustus's dynasty included the unpopular Tiberius AD 14 to 37, the bloodthirsty and unstable Caligula 37 to 41, and Claudius 41 to 54, who was best remembered for his army's conquest of Britain. The line ended with Nero 54 to 68, whose excesses drained the Roman treasury and led to his downfall and eventual suicide. 4 emperors took the throne in the tumultuous year after Nero's death. The fourth, Vespasian 69 to 79, and his successors Titus and Domitian were known as the Flavians. They attempted to temper the excesses of the Roman court, restore Senate authority, and promote public welfare. Titus 79 to 81 earned his people's devotion with his handling of recovery efforts after the infamous eruption of Vesuvius, which destroyed the towns of Herculaneum and Pompeii. This is it for today's video. What do you think of our video? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more future updates. Thanks for watching.